Hello, I am Adrian of The Adrian Ross Show, and you are tuned in for another episode. But first of all, I want to say I hope you had a wonderful Resurrection Day. Happy Resurrection Day, i.e. Happy Easter to you, and God bless you and your family. And so let's get started. I want to start with a review that I received. I love when I get reviews, and I just ask all of you to consider writing a review, giving the Adrian Ross Show a 5-star rating. You think it doesn't mean a lot. It means so much. It matters. So this one came from someone named Square J Ranch 1. And Square J Ranch 1 writes, Adrian is God sent. Found this podcast through an Instagram post. Now binge listening to all episodes. Adrian is delivering a much needed God sent message. That means a lot to me, Square J Ranch 1. I do my best to bring valuable content, and I love the fact that you called it a God sent message, because that is really what matters, right? Even when we're not necessarily talking about God, I'd like to believe that God is in the center of everything that I do, and you're acknowledging that means a lot. So again, others, if you're enjoying the Adrian Ross Show, take a moment wherever you listen and leave a rating, leave a review. Again, it does matter, and I thank you for it. Again, thank you, Square J Ranch 1. Now to today's topic. I recently traveled to New York with a friend who accompanied me, my travel buddy, I called her, my friend Jenny. I asked her to come with me as I was going to New York to visit family. And we were traveling via plane. And as you know, although some of the mask mandates, maybe most, maybe all mask mandates have been lifted, they have not been lifted from public transportation, which includes airlines. So here I am, someone who has become unaccustomed to wearing a mask, all of a sudden having to wear a mask. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm suffocating here. And that's how I felt, like just trying to breathe was like a chore, because again, where I live here in the Midwest, we ain't trying to live in masks for the rest of our lives. So I haven't been wearing a mask except when when you go into a healthcare facility or something, they make you wear one. But generally, I'm not wearing a mask. But that all changed, of course, when I went to the airport. So there that was. That was bad enough. And on the way back home after the trip to New York, I was boarding the plane, and the flight attendant was standing near the entrance of the plane, actually at the entrance of the plane. And apparently I didn't meet specs, and my mask was slightly under my nostrils. And so it was the flight attendant's duty, I guess, doing double duty as mask guard, apparently, to tell me to lift up my mask. And I couldn't help but roll my eyes, because I'm thinking, really? I mean, this is what you're doing. You're standing at the door. People are coming in. My mask is on, but slightly under my nostrils. And so you've got to tell me upon my entry to the airplane to lift my mask up so that it covers completely my nose. It's just ridiculous. It wasn't that far off, but it didn't meet the specs from the mask guard. So I did roll my eyes, and I was annoyed. And I get on the plane. I sit down. Things happen as things happen on the plane. Nothing remarkable, nothing really worth mentioning until. And by until I mean the same flight attendant, this guy is coming down the aisle, and he says to a young man who's across from me. My friend was across from me right there. She was in the aisle seat. I was in the aisle seat. And then it was a 3-seater where she was, and the window seat belonged to a young man. I don't know. He could have been anywhere from 18 to maybe 21. I don't know. But here this flight attendant comes down and says to him, where we can all hear, put your mask over your nose. And then he says, this is the second time I'm telling you. And it was kind of forceful for him to be talking to this young man like that. Again, put your mask over your nose. And then he points out, this is the second time. And my thought was, you're the flight attendant. Why are you talking to this young man this way? This boy, basically, this way. And it was annoying. I mean, the young man didn't say anything. He just put on his mask, but I couldn't help but think, as my friend was thinking, because we talked about it. Okay, so what happens if you have to tell me the third time? What does that mean? This is the second time I told you. And I'm thinking, again, you're the flight attendant. Here's your job as the flight attendant. Your job, okay, is to go around, make sure everybody is comfortable. Everybody knows how to put the seatbelt on during the flight. Your job is to ask me if I want pretzels or cookies. Ask me what I want to drink. Give me my pretzels and my cookies and whatever I choose to drink. Be in the way with that cart when I'm trying to come to and from the bathroom. That's your other job. Come by again with the garbage bag and collect the garbage and, that kind of thing. That's your job. Your job is not to be rude to the passengers who pay for the flight and call them out and basically sound like your papa when he says, you got one more time to do that before I tear your behind up. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. When your parents give you that look and then they tell you one more time and it's on. And that's basically kind of how he came across. And I couldn't help but think about, you've heard that expression about giving a bully a badge. I said, man, when you give a bully a badge, all Hades breaks loose. Because all of a sudden they become these monsters, these control freaks. And I don't say that to disparage police officers, because police officers, I have great respect for law enforcement. But there are people, when you give them a badge and they all of a sudden have to be in control of everything and talk to people like they're, like they don't count, like they don't matter, or give a person a position. And we're not just talking about law enforcement. I'm just using it as an example. We've heard that expression before, and then there are the, people, you give them a position in a job or something, a different kind of job, whatever kind of job. And all of a sudden they are big, bad monsters with a chip on their shoulder, talking to people like they don't matter. Again, this guy is the flight attendant. First of all, he wants to tell me to lift up my mask because it just doesn't quite fit the specs, and then going to tell this young guy, this boy, basically, this is the second time I told you. Listen, you're the flight attendant. Who are you to talk to him like that? Who are you to talk to him like that in front of other people? Talk to him like that, period. And then tell him this is the second time. So what? What, the third time you pull out the whip? What do you do the third time? If I happen to pull it down a little bit so I can try to breathe. But this is what has happened with this mask stuff and these mandates and all this stuff, that you take people who are supposed to be doing a certain job, and all of a sudden, not only are they mask guards, the mask police, but they're rude. Just because you have a mask on and you have a position doesn't mean that you get to talk to people like they're nothing because they don't have the mask up as high as you want them to have it up, or whoever wants them to have it up. You don't get to talk to people that kind of way, or rather you shouldn't. But there's something that has transpired through the course of this whole virus stuff that has caused people to lose their ever-loving minds and act like, like they're your boss or something, like you are at their disposal. That not only do they get to tell you what to do, but they get to speak to you any way they want. What is that? When I got on the plane, after I paid for it, I didn't sign up for you to then be the ruler over me and talk to me any way you want. But we have found that that is the case with this whole mask thing. And here's my other point. We know that, again, many, if not all, of these mandates in other places have been lifted. But the mask mandates for flights, for public transportation, has been extended. We can thank the Biden administration for that, right? So this has recently been extended. And the reason for it, apparently, is that the virus numbers have increased. And even when I commented on social media about how this flight attendant told me to lift up my mask a little bit higher, and someone was saying, yeah, just do it because, obviously they're they're proponent of the mask. And it was like, yeah, you'll deal with it. You'll live, pull it up, wear it right, because the numbers are going up. And I'm like, here's what I thought. Is it me? I mean, I'm no doctor. I'm no doctor. But is it me, or since the beginning of time, has not numbers concerning viruses, colds, diseases even, have not numbers always fluctuated? I mean, is it not true that sometimes numbers go up, sometimes numbers go down of cases? That is not something that just came with this coronavirus. It's always been the case. It's part of the human, element of life. It's part of the human condition. It's just life. Sometimes the numbers go up, sometimes they go down. So what are we going to do now? Every time the numbers change, we're going to stop life and say, yeah, we were going to put an end to these mandates, but the numbers have risen. So no, we're going to extend it. And then the numbers may rise again. And so we're going to extend. Numbers have been rising forever, just as they've been falling forever. It's life. It's what happens. We've always had viruses. We've always had sicknesses. We've always had diseases since the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. It's part of the sin that entered the world. It happens. We can't change life and disrupt, plans basically because a number went up or down. It's going to go up and down. It always has gone up and down. But these people and their fear and their control, and some it's just fear, some it's control, some it's a combination. And so we're going to put a halt to it. Let's wait 2 more weeks. And then what's supposed to change in 2 weeks? The numbers are always going to go up and down. 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. We've got to get over it and we've got to live. Yes, be cautious. Yes, wash your hands. Yes, get up out my face. You don't need to be breathing in my face. But at the same time, we've got to live. People have always been getting in people's faces and people always needed to wash their hands. And people always needed the grace of God for our covering and our protection. But mess happens. So please don't just cite to me that numbers have gone up. Yeah, they went up 10 years ago and went down, after that. It went up and went down and went up and went down. It's not going to change. So what, are you expecting us to live in these masks forever? Are you expecting to plant the mask guard at the door as you walk in to the airplane so that he can measure how close the mask is to my nostrils so that he can ream out the boy sitting in his seat because he told him 2 times? I mean, this is what we're planning to do for the rest of our lives because numbers fluctuate. And then the people who encourage you to follow along with that and act like it's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay for you to be telling this boy off because, or being rude to this boy because you all of a sudden think that you're more important than you are. Again, you're the flight attendant. You welcome me as I come in, do your job, whatever, but don't get rude about it. Give me the cookies instead of the pretzels, put a little ice in my drink, collect the garbage, make sure I'm comfortable, all that stuff. and don't be going off on people, and don't be loud and rude because you told them 2 times. Okay. And maybe if you weren't sweating it, you wouldn't have had to tell me at all. Just chill out. Or maybe you think I'm being too lax with the whole thing. I'm just saying this is life. This is life, and we can't start bugging out because somebody didn't follow your idea of what is appropriate with their mask by having it down a little bit under their nostrils so they can breathe. It's just ridiculous. So I just want to try to point out what should be obvious, that you're not in control of people because there's a quote unquote pandemic, that you don't have the right to be disrespectful to people because you don't like the way they're wearing their mask. You don't have the right to be disrespectful. That's what I'm saying. You don't have the right to be disrespectful. And let's get a grip. Citing these numbers as reasons to keep people suffocating isn't good at all. It just doesn't make sense. Numbers constantly fluctuate. Again, I'm no doctor, but I think I've lived enough to know that when it comes to viruses, colds, disease, all that stuff, they've been here and they will be here, and the numbers are going to fluctuate. Let's deal with it. Let's deal with it and live our lives. So, is this a bit of a rant? Maybe. It's not the first time. It won't be the last, I'm sure. It won't be the last rant you hear from the Adrienne Ross Show. But it is food for thought, as I often give out. As I say, A to Z, Adrienne is on it. And I wanted to bring you that perspective today. Hopefully tomorrow, somewhere in some tomorrow, we can get past this conversation. So thank you for tuning in to the Adrienne Ross Show. If you enjoy the podcast, please be sure to subscribe. Please be sure to share with your friends, and please leave a rating and a review wherever you listen or watch. Normally you are watching, some of you are watching on YouTube. You don't get the opportunity to see my pretty face today. But you get to listen, and that's what matters, and take in what we're talking about. Also, be sure to go to the BMG Network. That is thebmgnetwork.com, and check out the other podcasts there. Our podcasters are informative, engaging, enlightening, and also entertaining. So check it out there at thebmgnetwork.com. All right. I will catch you on the next episode of the Adrienne Ross Show. God bless you abundantly. The Adrienne Ross Show was produced and edited in the BMG studio. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod. Find more episodes of the Adrienne Ross Show at thebmgnetwork.com and major podcast platforms. Be sure to tune in regularly. You don't want to miss even one episode.